So, on the morning of December the 6th, much before people woke up, Telangana police, acting apparently in self defense, eliminated the four brutal rapists who were involved in the gang rape, and murder of Disha, which is the name that has been ascribed to the veterinary doctor who is no longer with us, who had a bright future ahead. This act, of course, is being celebrated on social media and even on the streets. And now, in this session, we will try to raise the larger issues of why this actually seems to be the best solution for now, as in, you would find the majority of people supporting this. Then, second, why this can't be the template for implementation in all such cases. We will see what goes wrong if we actually do that. We are going to compare Disha with Nirbhaya, and we will try to understand why the delay in the Nirbhaya judgment, final judgment, and actually the pronouncement of punishment came long back, while the implementation of the punishment is still awaited, has probably led to this event happening by Telangana police. And talking of police, we will also try to understand why the police cannot just wash away their sins just by an act of what is truly an encounter. And what we will see what is wrong with the police force of India, that also leads to basically such cases where the acts could have been, the crimes could have been prevented, but they couldn't be. Right, so welcome to our analysis. So the questions that were being raised before the encounter, and which will obviously continue to be raised on social media in other such cases, are: why do we wait to punish the rapists, especially of the brutal kind, so much? Why do we need to give them a so-called fair trial? Why don't we burn them right away? Why don't we hang them right away? As in, why do we need to go from a trial court to a high court to a supreme court, from there to the presidential stage, and recommendations to be made by the government? Why have all this hassle when we have the provision of hanging, burning, or encountering them, under quotes encountering, by the way, right away? Right, so what has happened on the December on the 6th of December, early morning? These four, Muhammad Arif, Jolu Siva, Chinta Kunta, Chena Keshavullu, Jolu Naveen, they were eliminated from the face of this earth. They were truly the scum of earth, as all of us would agree. What they did was unspeakable, is unspeakable, and was terrible. So what the police did is, on at the venue of their crime, they apparently were reconstructing the crime scene quite early in the morning. Why? Because they did not want any public interference there, and one of them signaled to the other three that they should escape or attack the police, and that was, of course, the trigger for the police to shoot them down. Nobody actually believes in that version. It's like, it's don't ask, don't tell. Everybody knows how this would have been done. Nobody is going to actually question them on the details, although we have, of course, a few organizations which have started doing that. Right, and in the end, everybody seems to be, not everybody, of course, but most people are happy about these people being killed in cold blood by the protectors of society. Right, so this is the venue where this was done. And one, of course, I should say that something which has been denied to the rest of society is, there was a reasonable doubt that these people have committed similar such crimes. Another body was found burnt, and maybe they would have done other such crimes which would have helped the police solve other missing person cases. But that is, of course, a minor issue in the larger context of people being on the streets and constantly on social media asking the police what is the response to such cases. So here we are. Now let us try to understand, why are people so restless, or why were, and they will still be. there are stark similarities between the case of Nirbhaya and Disha. So, Nirbhaya case, as we know, it happened on the 16th of December 2012. The brutal gang rape and brutalization, which led to her death very soon. How does it compare with this case? And you see, what I'm trying to tell here is, psychologically this played on people's mind, that 7 years after that we are still having such an incident. So where is justice in this world? So both were from the medical profession, right? One was a physiotherapist, the other one was a veterinary doctor. Both were traveling at night. The perpetrators, the criminals in both cases, they worked in the transportation sector as helpers and drivers. And the perpetrators were drunk, and they apparently wanted to party. This is as per the statements made by them to the police, right? So and this also calls, by the way, for looking for a look into whether there should be a ban imposed on alcohol, on sales of alcohol in Telangana, because of course you can't just let the issue die away just because the criminals have been eliminated. We have to look at other factors, but that's not what we are going to discuss right now. And in both cases, juveniles were involved. In the case of Nirbhaya, one was a juvenile, and in this case apparently two were, although their exact age was to be determined biologically through medical efforts. That of course is not necessary right now. So why is it that the Nirbhaya case has led to discontent among our larger community and in our society? So we should look at what's the status of the Nirbhaya case. So this happened on the 16th of December 2012, and she died a few days later after struggling with pain. And this pushed our lawmakers into swift action. Mind you, 2012-13 was a time when the BJP was in opposition and wouldn't let any bill be passed. There was so much pressure, public pressure made imposed on all parties, that they couldn't dare to delay amend the criminal law related to sexual assault. So a comprehensive Criminal Amendment Act 2013 was passed. There are many empowering, enabling, protective features there, which we're not going to delve into right now. But their death penalty is prescribed. But in the cases of when the victim dies, or when the victim is in a vegetative state, as in paralyzed for life, in such cases that penalty is prescribed, and there is otherwise a provision of life imprisonment till death, right? So these provisions are there in the 2013 act. We cannot obviously say that this is a weak law. Of course, the problem comes in the implementation of these laws. And finally, after 4 years, more than 4 years, the Supreme Court, of course, it went from one smaller court to the bigger court, and finally it reached and each court, of course, confirmed the death sentence for these men. And finally, four of them who were still around at that time, Akshay Thakur, Pawan Gupta, Vinay Sharma, Mukesh Singh, they were sentenced to death by the Supreme Court. There was a juvenile involved. Now, his name has not been disclosed, but it is kind of an open secret that his name was Muhammad Afroz. Many believe that the juvenile was actually the most brutal of those rapists. Again, the thing is that as per the juvenile law at that time, and he was juvenile by just 6 months. He was short of his 18th birthday by 6 months. A lot of protesters were questioning just why are we letting him go away. So the maximum punishment that could be imposed on a juvenile criminal of any kind at the time was 3 years in a reformative or remand home. And to add insult to injury, there at the time of his release, the Delhi government had to give him, it was criticized a lot on social media, but it's not that the Delhi government had a choice, had to give him 10,000 rupees and the sewing machine, so that The poor juvenile, who was now of course an adult, could start a career. It was last reported, as per some media reports. This, of course, let me tell you, cannot be verified, but there are multiple media reports that this person was last working as a cook in a restaurant in South India. Many are wondering, why would this person be provided if he's of such a brutal kind? Why has he been let free? Of course, we know why. There is a law. There is the law of the land which cannot be, disobeyed, mind you. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that it's actually the lacunae in the legal system which came into full display in the Nirbhaya case, which made people restless at this time to not let it happen again. We will come to what changed in the Juvenile Act very soon. I'll try to make a case that after the Nirbhaya incident, we are actually a much stronger legal system in a short while. So then what happened after the Supreme Court verdict? Reviews were filed. Of course, everyone in the country is entitled to review any judgment, even if it's in the Supreme Court. The review pleas were dismissed. The Supreme Court took its time, but they were dismissed. And after that, there is an option of filing curative petitions. They were filed, they were dismissed. So now there is the final option of filing for clemency or mercy with the President of India. Out of the four, three have filed. One has reconciled to his eventual fate and has not done that. It is believed that all four are unapologetic. None of them have actually shown remorse. And so it's now 7 years since what was at the time called the most heinous crime of extreme brutality, even in the courts of India, that justice hasn't yet been done. Right? When is justice completed? When the victim is finally punished. The punishment in this case, as established by multiple courts, is death. That has not yet been delivered. And you see, a dying person's last wish, the Supreme Court has said that whatever the dying person says is true. In the case of Nirbhaya, and true testament to her courage is that she not just recorded her statement, she recorded it in front of a magistrate, and she herself told that she wants the convicts to be either hanged or burnt to death alive. That was her last wish, right? So when is justice completed? When the and after that, of course, she died, and her family has been trying really hard to get justice in her case, which of course is death to these rapists. And in fact, her mother has been among the happiest after the Disha case, the encounter by Telangana police, and she has said she has wished that if this had happened in that case, the family, her family, need not have suffered so much for these 7 years. So we understand all these emotions that are now building up in the country after the Telangana case. And mind you, between 2012 and 2019, there have been certain lapses on the part of the investigators. And there is only one instance where people have said that justice was actually done. So there were 6 accused. 4 are right now awaiting their death sentence, and the 5th one was a juvenile who got away. There was a 6th one, Ram Singh. So what happened to Ram Singh? How did he die within 3 months of the arrest? Interestingly, he committed suicide. This is what the police said at the time. So mind you, this actually happened in the case of Nirbhaya as well. What we are saying in the case of Disha, all 4 have been eliminated. In the case of Ram Singh, he was eliminated. There is absolutely no reason to believe that this person was so remorseful, this criminal, that he would have committed suicide. Then there are the curious circumstances of where he hanged himself to death, apparently. So he was put in this small cell which was 12 feet high. There were 3 other hardcore criminals in that cell, and then suddenly early morning, apparently he committed suicide. It's kind of an open secret that either he was murdered by the 3 criminals in the jail cell, or the police themselves did this. Why did they do that? Again, at that time, political pressure was mounting a lot, and that might be one reason. But the second reason is, you see, not just in India, the world over, the brutal rapists, they face a very tough time in jails. Even other criminals, they do not tolerate, especially those who, who are accused or convicted of raping children. Many of them are murdered in jail for two reasons. Others are, terribly, no, they just can't stand such people in society. Even those who are inside jail serving their own sentences, they can't. And the second is, they do not get any protection from the police. So these people are usually judged as, unworthy of continuous living with us, and either justice will be done by the court, or people will take thing matters in their own hand. So this so-called suicide was obviously a murder, which was in a way justified. Again, it was also a case of, we won't ask, you don't need to tell, we know what happened. There of course is an ongoing investigation into this, and mind you, this is Tihar jail. It's not with hundreds of CCTV cameras. You just can't, nobody can actually. And his height was 5 feet 5 inches. One of his hands was not working, it had a metal rod inserted. For this person to magically uplift himself to a 12 feet roof and hang, and while the other three were sleeping apparently there, it's kind of impossible to believe. So this is a template that Telangana police have now copied, but they have scaled it up. Now all four have been eliminated, and of course they also get to be suddenly. So this one instance make them the heroes of the story. We will try to understand why they are not. Now mind you, one repercussion of somebody on trial for a long time, who is not remorseful, who doesn't regret his action. We saw this on display in 2015, when Mukesh Singh, who is the brother of Ram Singh, he of course remains, he wants to maintain that he did not commit the crime, but of course nobody believes that. So he appeared in a BBC documentary. It was shocking at that time. Why has this person been allowed to put forward his case? And of course what he said only justified the punishment given to him, but it exposed the mentality that these men have. I mean, such men who commit such abominable crimes have. So what he said is that women are more responsible for rape than men, and he suggested that if Nirbhaya had not fought back, and she fought back fiercely, then he says that they would not have been brutal, and they would have just dropped her while only hitting the friend, the boy who was along with her. This is what he said. And then of course the patriarchal mindset shows even here. He says that why was he roaming around at 9 p.m., that too with a boy? And he says that girls should stay at home and do housework, right? And he says apparently 20% girls are good. And then he also predicts that because of what is happening to us now, in the future rapists would simply kill the girl, they will not let her go. This is what he warned at that time. Mind you, what he said in this case is also what many legal experts maintain. So when people demand that all rapists should be sentenced to death, so the counterpoint to that is that in that case, the best way to eliminate evidence is to basically kill the victim, right? To murder the victim. And if somebody gets the same punishment for murder as for rape without murder, rape and murder and rape without murder, then the chances of the girl being murdered are high. This is what many legal experts advocate, right? So when we blankly say that all rapists should simply be hanged, then that is the counterpoint to that. I will only be discussing all the points here, right? So what was happening in the case of Disha? What Sunny Deol said in the movie Damini, that what he said was, if you are familiar with Bollywood, this is one of the most famous dialogues ever. तारीख पे तारीख मिलती है, इंसाफ नहीं मिलता. So you only get dates in the system, not justice. This is the prevailing sentiment across the country, that hearings after hearings without any conclusion, even where you have solid evidence, right? In the case of Nirbhaya, the she herself told, she identified the victims. Why are we 7 years down the line still without those people being hanged, those criminals being hanged, right? So the problem with India is, what the Greek philosopher and statesman Cicero said in about 100 BC: the more laws, the less justice. So, this is the system. This is what we are supposed to live with. By the way, Cicero himself was finally killed. His head was severed off. His head and hands were hung at the square by Mark Antony. And like most philosophers, he did not really have a very good ending. But that's a different story, right? So in India, we have a very complicated legal system. We do not have a parallel system, mind, not just in the case of trial for rapes. Yes, we have fast track courts, but they can always be appealed in a superior court, and still superior court, and finally every mercy petition will have to be filed with the president of India. And all our courts are so overburdened, right? Overall, we have about 2.5 crore cases pending in India's courts. So certain cases, of course, are prioritized, especially the cases which are highlighted on social media these days. They will be prioritized because then there is pressure on the government to do that. But imagine the cases, which similar cases as that of Disha or Nirbhaya, which were never highlighted, right? There have been many brutal rapes in the country which were never highlighted. For them, you imagine the system will continue to take its own time. So people are now frustrated, and we will see if it's a good thing or a bad thing shortly. So now, what I can safely predict is another, side effect, possibly a positive side effect, is that these four will be hanged to death very soon. And the reason is only simple: is political pressure on the government. And in my opinion, 16th December is the anniversary. So maybe the central government would want to redeem itself by hanging these people on the same day. And in this case also, right, they were killed. In the case of Telangana, they were killed at the same spot. So if it is done, then maybe it will be, finally people will celebrate this. Mind you, this is also political brownie points playing out here. So the BJP has made a statement that this is not a banana republic. Why? Because the Chief Minister of Telangana, KCR, Chandrasekhar Rao, he is being now celebrated. Telangana police is now being celebrated, and I'll come to why it shouldn't be shortly. So now there is, of course, competitive federalism now. So the central government will have to do something about this. In any case, if the outcome is good, if we are all consequentialists or utilitarians, then we would say it's fine. But that the question of why this took so much time probably will remain hanging in the air for quite some time. So again, like I said, the juvenile at that time got away, but this time it would have been difficult. It's not that the law did not change after that. So the Juvenile Justice Act was amended in 2015. And as per that, anyone involved in a heinous crime, and by heinous crime, it said any crime which carries a punishment of more than 7 years, which usually are murder, rape, and robbery, will be now tried as adults. So unless these juveniles in the case of Disha were less than 16 years of age, they wouldn't have gotten away this time. They would also have been sentenced to death, and sentencing to death for them was inevitable, right? It led to death, and as per criminal law 2013, that of course is the ultimate fate. The frustration was, how much time will it take to execute that sentence? How many appeals would be filed against that? So now let's come to the police, Telangana police, and I will try to generalize that. There is no bias against any state police. We have a terrible, very complicated, slow-moving system at place here. Mind you, before I come to what the Home Minister, this person is Telangana's Home Minister, what he said, we have to understand that our police system is largely what we inherited from the British. Why was that police system created? For the state to control its people. So to expect that a system which was designed to do that, and has largely, our police laws have not changed in donkey's years. So for that system to suddenly become people friendly and act on their complaints, especially when our police, they have a lot of problems, and if you have to speak from their point of view, they are overworked. They work 7 days in a week. Most police stations are understaffed. And by the way, I'm not sure if you know, the only promotion that a constable can expect in his entire tenure is that of a senior constable. So that's the incentive, right? So there is absolutely no incentive for these people to work hard. Of course, that's the different kind of discussion right there. So, but we let us understand why the Home Minister of Telangana was wrong, and he shouldn't be redeemed of what he said just because that encounter has happened. He said that the educator, and there was sarcasm in this. So Mahmood Ali said that the educated veterinary doctor should have dialed the number 100. That is, should have called the police instead of calling her sister when she was, of course, when she was in trouble. And for this, he was criticized. He has since apologized. And of course, like most politicians say, he was apparently we misunderstood him. Now, let me tell you why it has to be Telangana. Let's try to understand that. So, why didn't she dial 100? Of course, she was educated, smart. Would you dial 100? When is the last time you dialed 100? Have you ever dialed 100 in your time? Have you met anyone who has dialed 100 and then said, the police responded promptly to a complaint? Have you ever tried to file an FIR in a police station in your neighborhood? You should see how you are discouraged from doing that. And the reason is very, very logical there, because the police people are judged by their work is judged by a reduction in the FIR, number of FIRs filed. Obviously, then they would discourage. They would say, no, this is not in our jurisdiction. You file it in some other police station, and there will be bureaucratic hassles created there. Now, let's look at a startling number here. In India's police force, women constitute just 7.3% of the overall force. Just 7.3%. And the state which has the lowest percentage, by the way, is Telangana. Why is this important? Of course, one immediate step that the governments have been themselves accepting to take the responsibility to take over years is to increase the number of women in the police force, so that women can come forward and report not just cases of rape but sexual assault, even sexual harassment. Because it's not a police station is not really a comfortable environment for anyone, for that matter. By the way, I have had horrible experience in a police station, and I was just wondering, how do people manage to be there? You just have to sit and observe. But this is the statistics given by the government of India on the floor of the house in 2008. Just 2.5%, right? So the next step for the Telangana government after celebrating this encounter should be to at least match it at the horrible level of 7.3% of the overall country, and then take it forward. So why is it that women are not joining the police force? Of course, there's a lot of unemployment in the country, especially among urban women. Their workforce participation rate is actually dropping. Why is the police force not an employment of choice? The reason they have less numbers is because they do not get many women interested, because the police station is not friendly for the women police personnel. Imagine this. The only possible reason for this is that it's not friendly for them. And overall, if we talk about why the police force does not respond to emergent situations, it's ill-equipped. It's not uncommon to find them carrying World War I rifles to work, and not to work but from work to the crime spot. A lot of the world has moved on to high tech equipment. We are only recently we have started dealing with cyber crimes. So that's that aside, they are overburdened. Like I said, they just cannot. Even those who are genuine, who just want to do things, those who join the police force with good intentions, soon realize that it's of course a teamwork. One policeman cannot just, that happens of course in movies, cannot just go away and distribute justice to point A and then point B, right? He will be fired from the job. undertrained. They do not know how to respond to certain situations. Especially they are not sensitive. They need to be made gender sensitive, and this can't be done by just a 1 week workshop in each police station. That also doesn't happen anymore, and no wonder they are women unfriendly. And more importantly, shall we say that they are incompetent. Let me tell you why, and this is another similarity between these two incidents. The Nirbhaya case could have been avoided. How? The same men who committed that crime a few hours before, and this is in the police records, they robbed one man, Ram and they tricked him on the bus, and they thrashed him, and they took his money and dumped him at the IIT Delhi flyover. Now, that man happened to see three policemen nearby, and he complained to them. How did the three policemen respond? He said, they said, this is not in our jurisdiction. Even if it was not in their jurisdiction, this man actually had noticed how the bus was. He could have described, they should have called the next police station or wherever the jurisdiction actually fell, and informed them to do something about this. So they, of course, they did not know the crime that's going to happen next, but they somehow thought it's a petty crime. This is not a huge case, and this should be just dismissed. What happened after that, we know. Now let's come to Telangana. Disha's family they themselves have told the National Commission of Women that Hyderabad police did not act immediately on their missing complaint. The same police who are now being lionized, they did not act on their missing complaint. In fact, one of them suggested that she might have eloped. Imagine the insensitivity there, that they might have that she might have eloped, and she will come back. And then the others again said, this is not in our jurisdiction, you go to some other police station. And this was a missing complaint. Things of course go wrong in this country, right? So can we make a case that if somebody had acted at that time, maybe her life would have been saved? Of course, the argument that the police cannot be at each place each time is valid. You can't, the police can't be. Even in the developed countries with their entire police force, there still are people who go out with knives and kill people randomly on the streets. They can't be prevented. But the response to that has to be swift, especially in the case of a missing complaint, because of course, literally, it's a difference between life and death. Right. So yes, so the home minister hopefully needs to understand she was right in dialing her family, who of course we would trust more than the police, who would either not respond or dismiss, or respond so late that there will be no use for that. So if we talk of movies, the good old scenes where the police always used to arrive after the crime had been committed and the hero had saved the world, probably is still true for this. I find this example very glaring. So what you see on the screen is a women friendly police van, which was launched with much fanfare in Bangalore by the police. It was publicized. Now if you go on the streets and if you see such vans, it will mostly be a male driver, police person there, full of male police persons there. The reason for this again is that there are not enough women who actually are there in the police force. And second, Bangalore police explains that women police personnel, they do not really want to patrol at night, so they can't force them to do this. So these cosmetics do not really solve the overall problem of our police force being thoroughly out of sync with what are the current realities of our society. There are multiple reforms that have been suggested. Many commissions have done that. They are yet to be implemented, and unless we do that, and of course, let's not even get into the corruption problems, corruption issues here. We'll come to that shortly. Again, right? So we have to understand why she did not dial 100, and we have to also understand there was absolutely a lot of pressure on these police people in Telangana to redeem themselves. If they had not done this, then more questions would have been asked, and I would want more questions to still be asked. Why? Because yes, justice has been done, but she is not going to return home anymore. And when the social media hashtags have died, eventually the family will live with that grief. So if her life could have been saved, why was it not saved at the time? Why did somebody not respond? We have to come to that. Now let's generalize this discussion. Let's try to ask what should be done with brutal rapists anywhere in the country. What should be the response? Let me help you with the options. One, hang them right away. Option B, lynch them, stone them to death at the spot of their crime. Take them to the next level of the police encounter, right? Why? What's the need for doing this? People, if they were left to the public, they would have been eliminated on the spot. I mean, their bodies would have been torn by the force of the public fury. Why not do that? The third option is chemically castrate them. What is chemical castration? And then still try them and hang them, but immediately chemically castrate them. What is chemical castration? Chemical castration is using chemicals, medicines, to suppress sexual hormones, to make someone absolutely incapable of performing a sexual act. Basically, to make someone impotent by administering medicine, and then still try and hang them. Now, this was also suggested a lot on social media. It's also an option available in European countries, by the way, but it's not forced. What they do is that many convicts of rape, especially those who are accused of raping children, they themselves volunteer to be chemically castrated so that their prison sentence can be reduced, so that they could argue that we are no longer a threat to society. Now, there's a problem with chemical castration. It is widely believed by medical experts that this can be reversed. You cannot permanently repress. There is absolutely no proof that by administering medicines for some time, the hormones can be repressed for a long time. And most certainly, just chemically castrating and letting them go can't be the solution. So maybe first chemically castrate them, punish them for that, and through that, and then try them, hang them, preferably immediately. Of course, the fourth option is burn them. Burning would be the worst kind of one of the worst kinds of death. So give them that and let public do this. The last option, probably the least popular option right now in the country, would be give them a fair trial. Let the law take its own course. Yeah, if you believe in any of this, I would want you to put your favorite option. Let's also look at how people are thinking of it right now, especially at the end of my session. So now let's come to the other cases which are in news right away. What we are trying to do here is scale this up to the national level, and see if what we have done, what we are celebrating in the case of Disha, that justice has been done, which is right, it has been done. I mean, the criminals have been eliminated from the face of earth. Can this be done in these cases? So now I'm sure social media will start trending the case which was ignored. So just a few days back, one Uttar Pradesh girl was kidnapped and gang raped in a car with a police logo. The car had a police logo, and four people have been arrested. One of them is a jailer's son. One of them is a CRPF constable, mind you, someone from the police force, and two acquaintances of them. They have been now arrested and they will be tried. So, are we going to encounter them now? And mind you, one of the accused is a police person. In many cases, we find police also to be one of the accused here. So now who's going to deliver justice to the family of this 15-year-old girl and to herself as well? Who's going to do that? The other case, which is actually trending right now and will trend for the coming days, is horrible. So Unnao is, and I'll come to that on the next slide. But there is another rape case in Unnao where a girl was promised marriage by one of the criminals who were arrested. And what he did was he, along with his friend, raped the girl. And after that, she dialed 100, by the way, and these people have dialed 100. So she complained to the police. These people were arrested, but then finally they were let go on bail. Of course, they were not deemed to be an immediate threat to society, so they were let go on bail. What have they done? This woman was burnt. 90, she has suffered 90% burn. She ran for 1 kilometer after being burnt in such a horrible state, because again she was going to present some evidence for her crime. The best way to eliminate a witness is to kill the witness. And then she ran because there was no one in the vicinity. And she herself, she met the first person she met, she sought help of that person. With in such a horrible condition, she dialed the police and herself informed that this has happened. She has named the two criminals involved in this case. Now there are two candidates here who need to be killed, eliminated right away. Otherwise, what's going to happen is trial court, high court, Supreme Court, mercy petition. So is there any volunteer right now who's going to do this? How many police people are now ready to do this? You're getting the point. We are trying to argue if we are trying to explore if the template is expandable to the national level. In all such cases, we will all agree, and she's fighting for her life right now, we'll all agree that this is also a heinous, brutal crime. So yes, maybe you want to answer yes, this should be done, right? So even the police person involved there, that person should be encountered by the police. The jailer's son should be encountered right away, and they should be subjected to a more horrible death, because they were supposed to be the protectors, not the perpetrators. And in this case, it's such a horrible incident that these two people criminals should be burnt or shot down right away. Okay, now let's ask this question. Do you recognize him? He has trended a lot, has been split opinions. So he's an ex-MLA, Kuldip Sengar. He was accused by a girl of sexual assault and rape. What happened after that? After that? If you have not followed the case, this is one of the most horrible, bossed up investigations in which the victim had to suffer and has continued to suffer. So after, see, of course, there was denial. Then his party expelled him. They were forced to expel him. The police, however, remained loyal to him in that case. So what happened in, I think in April 2018, her father, she was tortured by the police, trashed by the police, and framed in what was later proved to be a false case. And he needed medical attention, which was not provided to him, and he died. Right now, certainly this is horrible, possibly more horrible, but more horrible things are still to come in this case. When she was going to the court along with two of her aunts, her car was apparently hit in an accident by a truck, and it was hit with such force she survived, but her two aunts died, and her lawyer was also injured. This person is still around. Raise your hands if you want to go ahead and kill him, because clearly there is a very strong case to eliminate this person. He's not going to serve any strong, he's not going to contribute to the society in any way. Who knows, more people will die as a result of him staying around. Are we going to do that? I hope you're getting the point that India is no short of these cases. How are we going to pursue these cases through what is surely vigilante justice? Vigilante justice has to be systemized. By the way, police, they subject people to a certain law and maintain certain order. The only entity in a country which is legally entitled to use violence is the state. How does it use violence? Of course, by punishing criminals, right? So when we pass on power to the hands of people, which means even the police people who have done that, they are not allowed, right? If it's proved to be an encounter, not an act of self-defense. An act of self-defense, of course, will be looked. It is true. You can kill somebody in self-defense and get away with that. Police people also can do that. But if we are encouraging this, then it also is an encouragement for us to avenge any wrong done to us. And imagine you see, so on social media it's easy to trend hashtags, but who feels the maximum anger? The family. What do they want to do? What's the first instinct? Eliminate, right? Many you see that juvenile, in the case of Nirbhaya, if he is ever really located, will not live. There is so much anger still for that, right? So of course his identity has been concealed. In this case, whether it was the police or anyone else, these four people would not have survived, right? Because their face was everywhere. In fact, they would have liked to be imprisoned in police protection. Had they gone out, they would not have lived anyway. The frustration in the country has built up to that level. But again, what about this? And do you want, if you really think this is an exceptional case in the country, let's come to the next slide, which I hope you know, you are aware of. If you are not, let me tell you. So who will frame laws on rape? Our lawmakers. Who do they represent? Mostly their families, but many apparently are passionate about the country. If I take a session on ethics, you will know, I will be able to prove that it's eventually we are all motivated by self-interest, our own gratification. But forget that for a second. Let's look at how many of them are accused of crimes. So in the current Lok Sabha, 233 members of parliament, that is 43%, have criminal charges against them. Right now, you may want to think that these may be casual charges. Politicians, of course, they are, what these people would say is, we are public personalities. Many people will act. Our opposition, those who are in opposition, will frame us. So let's look at the constitution of these people. So the BJP has 116 MPs, the maximum number, unsurprisingly, because they have the maximum number of MPs in parliament. They swept the elections. Percentage-wise, 39%. The Congress cannot blame the BJP for this, because they have 29 MPs, but that's still 57% because they couldn't send many MPs to the parliament. The Janata Dal United, by the way, has 13 members. 81% of their MPs have criminal charges. The DMK has 43%. Their 10 have 43% of their members have it. And Trinamool Congress has 9, which is 41%. What glorious consistency these parties have maintained. And the funny thing was that all these parties were saying, how should these criminals will be dealt with? They should be hanged, they should be stoned, because whatever is applicable to these criminals, a few of them will also be they have earned the right to be subjected to the same treatment, right? So what I'm arguing here is there will always be some resistance in parliament. By the way, if you are trying to say that these may be petty crimes they have been accused of, usually some corruption case, let's look at the heinous crimes. 29% of these cases are related to rape, murder, attempt to murder, and crime against women, right? 29%. So of the 233 MPs, 29% of them most likely are accused, again under quotes, accused of committed a crime against women. What will these parliamentarians argue? That as per the law, they will be disqualified as MPs if they are convicted, and the punishment imposed on them is 2 years or more. Then they will be immediately disqualified. So in their case, are they going to argue that, you see, I have been accused of rape and I should subject myself to the people, let them decide what is to be done with me? So what I'm saying is, it's right on the part of the people, the general public, to say these people should be, the brutal rapists should be stoned to death. Whoever is indulges in crime against women should be burnt, hanged, or castrated. But in the parliament, it was a bizarre scene. These people were arguing against that. Why is it that no party has come up with a rule that anyone who is accused of any crime We saw that in the case of juvenile, at least any crime which carries a punishment of 7 years or more, if somebody is accused of that, till such time that he or she is not cleared of the crime, they won't be allowed to contest for the party. They're not fired, but they should not be allowed to contest. Why is this, has this not been done, and when will this be done, right? So again, the question to ask is, who's going to burn the parliament? Are you going to do that? Are you going to trend hashtag burn the parliament? Will you not be treated as anti-national if you do that? But there is a clear case for that. I mean, 29% of the 223 MPs are accused of heinous crimes. You really want them to decide on what should be done in the case of heinous crimes, right? So, as Malcolm X said in V for Vendetta, people should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. Are we going to this extent now? Are we going to, encircle the parliament and ask these lawmakers to come out when they are busy throwing chairs on each other, and single them out and drag them to the public square? Do you have that in you? Do you want to do that? And will that be the correct path? These are the questions we should be asked, right? See, what that which has a degree has a maximum. So what is the maximum extent of this? Where do you scale this up to be, right? Once you start, you go to the next level, take on the next criminal, and in all senses, all said and done, till such time that the judges had said that these people are actually the culprits, they are the criminals who were involved, the law clearly says they are innocent till they are proved guilty, right? In this case, we knew that they are guilty, so we decided to punish. The police decided to punish, and there are police protecting these people. Are they going to turn on these people and do the same? I hope you are getting the point which I am going to make. Now, finally, let's look at the theories of punishment. So, as per legal theory, this is a part of ethics. There are 4 reasons why somebody should be punished. The first one is deterrence, which means that if you are aware, if you commit a crime, you will be punished in such and such way, and that is horrible, unacceptable to you, you will resist from committing that crime, right? You know that you can't do that. So that's deterrence. Retribution is what Nirbhaya's family has not yet got. It's simply an eye for an eye. You chop off my hand, I will chop off your hand, right? So you kill somebody, you out to be killed. It's simply that the degree of punishment should match the extent of crime. Only then, and the retribution is for the victims' families. Like I said, the people who will have to live with the loss of the daughter are the family members of Nirbhaya and Disha, and hundreds and thousands of more in this country. Now, the controversial part is reform, which means that, change the criminals, appeal to their heart, of course, punish them, but not harshly. Let them understand that what they committed is sinful. Let them regret that. Let them show that they have reformed, and then let them go. In heinous crimes, no one in the reasonable mind would say that these people can be reformed. Of course, many people would say that, yes, everyone can be reformed, but in a thoughtfully carried out heinous crime, that cannot be the case. However, that's also a very solid legal theory, especially in Europe. European countries, most jurisdictions believe in this. The last one is protection. Protection of the society from such criminal people. If you put them behind bars, they're not out in the open, and people need to be assured of their safety. So now that juvenile is out there, we do not know, in the case of Nirbhaya, we do not know if that person has reformed, right? And what if after 3-4 years that person commits a crime and this has been and we know of it? Then what happens? Who's responsible for that, right? So many people were arguing for that juvenile to be subjected to the same treatment as the other 5 accused or criminals, was for the simple reason that you just can't let that person go. Now let's understand why the case of Disha, how it has ended for the criminals, make let's put a tick mark on the purposes that it serves. Deterrence, yes. Why? Because this is such a publicized case. People would have known about it. Now with WhatsApp, people come to know about these cases. So it's highly likely that many people who are not bestial or anyway who are designed to commit such crimes would resist from doing this. So deterrence is served. Retribution, indeed, yes. I mean, the Disha's father himself made a statement thanking Telangana police that in 10 days justice has been served. Nirbhaya's family has been waiting for this. Protection, of course, the best way to take out a criminal from society is to kill the criminal. So it actually makes sense. The whole question is there are so many such criminals out there so many such horrible crimes. Who is going to do that, right? Now let's see what goes wrong if we identify, let's say if you want to select each of them, you are somebody who makes a list of all those who reads newspaper and puts a tick mark and goes ahead, wears a mask and eliminates such people. You will obviously not be alone. Such sentiments are not really unique to you. There are possibly thousands, if not more than a million people out there who would like to do that. So then we come to what is the final part here, the slippery slope argument in ethics. What is the slippery slope arguments, right? So what has been done is illegal but all right, right? We see what has happened to these four criminals as illegal but all right, there was no other way out. So where do we stand right now? We are here, somewhere here. We have slipped somewhat, right? So now we stand here. Now again we notice that burn the one who was raped and has been burnt and is fighting for her life. We clearly know who those two criminals are, of course. So in Uttar Pradesh, either the police people or somebody else should eliminate them, and it's highly likely that it should happen, considering that the Telangana police is now being celebrated all of a sudden for doing this what was clearly sanctioned by the state. They obviously had no say in that. It was a very well organized elimination. So what happens after that? So okay, no, we would say it's justified in all the cases of brutal rape and murder. Then we would say, somebody would say, why ignore those who rape even if it is without murder? Why should such people exist in society? So okay, we slip somewhat more. Now we start eliminating such people. Soon somebody would say, what about those who commit crimes against, let's say, old people? Why should these people stay in society? Who how dare they touch an old man who was without any savings and rob him of his life's worth? Somebody would say this such people, such criminals do not deserve any mercy. They need not be tried by the court, right? And soon this will continue to happen, and it may come to an extent where somebody, a pickpocket, takes your 2000 rupee note, and you would say how dare you, and you would want, not just want, but you would kill that person for doing that, because obviously how dare he touch your hard earned 2000 rupees, right? So that's the slippery slope argument. What is applicable to one case also becomes applicable to other similar cases. It then becomes applicable to other cases which might not be so similar. When we are saying that the police themselves should do justice, there are many such cases awaiting justice right now, right? So many police people would start doing this right now. The superintendent of police is now trending on who did this is trending, he's being celebrated, right? There are many more police officers who would want to be celebrated on social media. They know what's the way to do that right now, and people would again accept that. After that, people themselves would start doing it. If the police themselves are doing it, how can they stop the public from doing it? How can they stop a group of people from stopping their police van and snatching the criminals and stoning them right on the street in front of them? That is vigilante justice or mob justice, right? And it gets slipping further and further. There is no rule of law. It will be chaotic, it will be archaic, and it will reach the parliament eventually, right? So no wonder many people are saying that this is not acceptable. You have to understand their point of view as well. Right. So with that, I submit. I have not made any case, mind you. I have just discussed all aspects here so that you can make an informed decision before you put that hashtag on Twitter. What should be the right way forward? I would like to know what you think about this in the comment section. Please go ahead and do that. Please let me know your opinion. We will have more such discussions going forward. By the way, I will fail in my duty if I don't make you aware. I'm a pathetic marketeer, but still, we have two really good. If you're preparing for civil services, there is a module gk.knappily.com where you can go ahead. If quality still counts in this world, then you will be happy with what we do there. And if you're preparing for MBA interviews, then mba.knappily.com. The next season is about to begin. Please go ahead and do that. Right. Thank you for investing your time in this. I hope now you are better informed. See you again in another such session.